On the air everywhere, this is New England Broadcasting.
Come Monday, it'll be alright.
Monday morning, you sure look fine. Rainy days and Mondays always get me down.
Whatever.
Tell me why I don't like Mondays. Tell me why I don't like Mondays.
It's just another manic Monday.
Monday, so good to me.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's the Ron Van Dam Show.
Welcome.
Hold on tight. Things can get a bit weird if you like that sort of thing.
Take your shoes off. I don't want you to get my floor dirty. Hey, welcome to the program. It is the Ron Van Dam Show. Guess which one I am? Oh, God. Thanks for coming. You didn't have to do this, and I know that. I know this is a voluntary movement on your part, and I appreciate it. I really do. When you get your mail tomorrow, there could be a little check in it. It won't be for me, but there could be. Hey, it's the start of another week. Isn't that exciting? Not really. No, doesn't really matter, does it? I still go to bed. I wake up. I shower. I brush my teeth. I go to work. I go home. I eat some food, and I go to bed. Doesn't make any difference what day it is. Did you remember to turn your clocks forward yesterday? If not, you're late for everything right now. When you turn your clocks forward, you're also supposed to check your fire and smoke alarms. Like anybody does that. But you should do that. Like anybody does. But you should do that. Yeah, but like nobody does. I do this show very early in the morning, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but I do. I do the show well before you probably ever get up. And I'm just searching for pity here, is all I'm doing. Now, I'm a morning person. I am. I'm more effective in the morning than I am during any part of the day, which means I'm always not effective. But why do I need to be effective anymore? I was effective. Why be effective all the time? Sometimes you want to be non-effective, you know what I mean? Are you still here? All right. I do have a very interesting show for you. Don't argue with me. I really do. Later on, we're going to talk to an Academy Award icon, a man who himself and his father have basically shaped television. One of those icons. He'll be joining us a little later in the program, so please hang out for that. If you get hungry, run down kitchen and get yourself a sandwich, but put me on pause. You don't want to miss any of this show today. Any of it. And I'm talking about okay, the first part wasn't great, but now it's going to get incredible. How are you? March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb. If you understand that, raise your hand. Nobody's raising it. Yeah, I guess it's more winterish at the beginning of March and more springish at the end. I don't know. Who cares? It is what it is. It comes when it comes. It goes when it goes. Let's stop putting Oh, animals into these things. Marcia comes in like a lion. Oh, come on. What does a lion come in like? I don't know. I've never had a lion come in before. There's never been like a knock at my door, and hello, who is it? It's a lion. Oh, come in. Never happened. Never will, unless I live in Africa. And still, I don't think they ring doorbells. And March goes out like a lamb. Get the lamb out of here. It's the end of March. It makes no sense. Do you ever cook lamb in your house? I mean, not the whole thing, just the lamb meat. I don't know what they call that. Lamb, I guess. It smells, it stinks. They do. I mean, yeah, in the oven they stink. Don't try it. I'm just warm. Do you ever have lamb chops in the oven? That's not too bad. Why am I talking about this? Oh my God, stop me, somebody. Before I get in, oh, by the way, I did not watch the Academy Awards, really. I'll tell you why. The Academy Awards, the winners of the various categories are all voted by their own members. So if you have some great disdain for somebody in your industry, this is where you take it out on them. And why am I watching that? Two of the movies that were up for Academy Awards I saw, and they both, they sucked so much. One of them was Here, There, Everywhere, Underwear, Over There, Not Here, Everywhere. That movie. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? Everywhere, up there, not here, everywhere, though. Up there. It's about a woman who apparently is doing a lot of judo and karate moves and stuff, and I don't know what it's called. And I didn't understand the movie at all. I watched it for like an hour, and I just stopped. I said, "This is ridiculous. I don't understand what the hell's going on here." And that's up for an Academy Award. I don't understand that at all. And then I watched Tar. Have you seen that movie? You probably haven't. Tar is Kate Blanchett plays a symphony conductor. The movie is over 2.5 hours long. There's no movie that should be that long. It was excruciatingly long. It was so long that the ending credits were at the beginning. I swear, I'm not kidding. I didn't make that up. They really are. It's so odd. The movie itself, I fell asleep like 5 times during it, and the only thing I can say about that movie is thank you for letting me catch up on my sleep. Nothing happened. It was so freaking boring. And that was up for an Academy. I mean, she did a great job acting, but all she did was just like talk stuff. It wasn't, oh no, there was no. So as I don't understand these films that are up for big awards, I had no reason to watch it. I had about as much interest in the Academy Awards this year as I do in Harry and Meghan's dinner last night. I just don't care. So I didn't watch it. But it's a thing in our society. It was the 95th Academy Awards. That's a lot of them. That's nice. Is there a law that I have to watch it or talk about it? No, there isn't. Not last time I checked. At least not where I live. So forget it. But we will talk to an icon in that industry coming up later in the show. And to many of you, the name itself will be recognizable. To others, you'll have no idea who he is. But you'll know his work, that's for damn sure, and his father's work as well. And my work. And the work of your friends. I was at Lowe's, I believe it was. Not the movie theater, the hardware thing. And they have plants. They're starting to have plants now because spring is coming. Did you know that? Yeah, it's going out like a lamb. Spring's coming. So I was walking through the store. That's not why I was walking through the store. But they started to have plants out. And one of the plants they had was the Wandering Jew. And I stopped in my tracks. And I said to myself, with all the politically correct stuff we're doing, where baseball teams have to be renamed because they're insulting to certain cultural groups, all that kind of stuff. And you know what? fine, change the name. What the hell do I care? These people who fight and say, no, you should not change the name. That's name's been around forever. I don't care if you're insulting a certain culture. I don't. Well, who cares about the name? Stop your stupidity. Anyway, so I'm looking at a plant that's called a Wandering Jew, and I thought, why isn't anybody doing anything about that? A Wandering Jew? That's the name of a plant? First of all, it's insulting to Presbyterians. It's insulting to Jews. Wandering Jew is a plant? Come on. How about the groping priests? I mean, like, come on, man. The Wandering Jews. I get it. Jews wander. Not anymore. I don't really see. I don't see a person like pacing back and forth and go up to them and say, you must be a Jew. No, because that's stupid. But I guess in the olden days when I wasn't here and neither were you, when people used to trek through the desert back in the biblical times, I guess the Jewish people had to flee various situations, and they wandered through the desert to find some place to settle. So they were wandering Jews. That's nice. I think a lot of different people wandered. They didn't necessarily have to be Jewish. So that term is used for plants. I know. And I guess because some plants, when they grow, the vines and the leaves wander all over the table or the floor or the tree, whatever the case may be. So they named it that. And yet nobody's up in arms about that. How dare you call it a wandering Jew? How dare you? That's culturally it's insulting. Change the name to Wandering Bob. Let's insult people named Bob, why don't we? Well, we do. We do. When you go bobbing for apples, they didn't change that. That's why I think the name Bob is a little like weird, because if your name is Bob and you're sticking your face in a large vat trying to come up with an apple in your mouth, that's pretty stupid. But we call it bobbing for apples. I don't know why. I do know why. I'm just trying to make a joke. So anyway, how do we get away with the Wandering Jew thing? I mean, why hasn't that been changed? That is quite insulting. I don't think we all use the term we don't use it in a derogatory sense. You know? Why are you wandering Jew, you? That doesn't go anywhere. So I guess it's okay. But I just found it weird. It's a weird name for something. Very, very weird. Do we run out of names for plants? Is that what it was? Now we have to go into religious explanations on physical characteristics. I mean, come on. Everybody wander. I wandered yesterday. Does that make me a plant? Well, I guess it does, actually, come to think of it. Anyway, my guest will be joining us quite shortly now. He's a fascinating man. I went to college for film and television. That was my major. That's what my degree is in, film, television, and radio. And yeah, I had the best college course ever. I went to New York University, and my job was to go to a movie theater called the Art Theater. And that's where the class was held in the morning, because movie theaters aren't open in the morning. And we would sit there, there's about 50 of us, and we would watch movies like Citizen Kane and the Wandering Jew movie. And we would watch these things. And then when they were over, the professor, the associate professor, seriously, would stand up in front of the movie theater auditorium and say, "Let's discuss," and we would discuss it, and that was it. I mean, that was my curriculum. We had to actually shoot a little movie, which I did. I was doing that anyway, actually, at that age. So, I mean, it was just like easy peasy. It was a pass-fail kind of situation. You weren't graded on your abilities. You were just, if you showed up, I mean, you passed. So it was very, very cool. Here's the irony. About 5 years later, I'd say 5 years later, I actually managed that movie theater. I was the manager. I got the job and became with the movie theater chain, and I became a movie theater manager, and they sent me to that theater. And that's also the theater where I met my wife. It's very odd how life just opens up somewhere, you know. It's just when you backtrack it, it's like, whoa, that's amazing how that happened. It's not so amazing when it's happening. It's only amazing when you backtrack it in history and you go, whoa, look at that. My big question to you is, are you still awake at this point? I'm going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, my guest will be joining us. We're going to talk about some movie motion picture history is what we're going to do, because this man and his father are actually connected to it. But first, this short commercial word.
Are you the sort of person who feels vicarious excitement at the prospect of a robust discount? Then you need to pay us a visit at Jerome Cherrington's Emporium of Preposterous Values. Each and every day, our standard pricing model is an absolute affront to common retailing practices and could indeed be seen as an indication of mental instability. Consider, if you will, a 24-pack of your favorite coffee pods, if one happens to drink such a thing, a mere $2.99. Is that sensible in the least? No, I tell you, it is not. And what of this? Common t-shirts with witty sayings upon them, suitable for men, women, and children, depending upon how you've raised them, 10 for $6. This is uncanny pricing that quite simply flies in the face of all possible reason, and the only explanation for this behavior on my part is that I am not sane, frankly. Do not take my word for it. Instead, find your way here to Jerome Cherrington's Emporium of Preposterous Values, just off the motorway and beyond the roundabout, where our everyday retailing decisions are simply unnatural.
Let's say hello to George Stevens Jr. He's an Oscar and Emmy winner, founder of the American Film Institute. Thanks for being with us today, George.
Very happy to be with you.
And we're talking about the Oscars, the Academy Awards, and how that's put together and all of that. You're an award-winning author as well, I understand.
Well, yes, I wrote a play called Thurgood that Lawrence Fishburne starred in on Broadway, and I've written a couple of books, and my memoir is out now called My Place in the Sun,
Cool. Life
in the Golden Age of Hollywood and Washington.
Wow. Is it still the Golden Age, George?
No, it's a different age. I mean, the Golden Age was very special, and I was privileged to be a part of it as a young person. And, of course, my father was a great director, and so he created in me an appetite for excellence.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
And he cared about movies that stood the test of time.
Yes, very, very much so. Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, I'm one of those guys that just loves the old days, and I guess, when people get older, that's what they say. But my impression of movies now is that I'm watching special effects, but previously, in the previous decades, I was watching acting and storylines. I mean, is that accurate to any great extent in my head?
Quick story. I went in 1952 to the Academy Awards with my father. He'd been back from the war, and I was sitting next to him, and Joseph Mankiewicz came on the stage, who'd made The Lady Eve the year before and won the Oscar. And he read the nominees: John Huston for The African Queen, William Wyler for Detective Story, Vincent Minnelli for An American in Paris, Elia Kazan for A Streetcar Named Desire, and George Stevens for A Place in the Sun. And I wouldn't be telling you about this if John Huston had won.
I understand.
But my father won his first Oscar for A Place in the Sun. And that is just such a rich slate, and it's not quite like that anymore.
It isn't. I mean, it's, whatever it is, it is. I remember watching 2001: A Space Odyssey numerous times, and I was in awe by the special effects because they were just created on the screen as models and such. And I was in awe of that and the concept. If I saw a film like that now, I'd say, yeah, okay, they just did some stuff in the computer. Nice. A total different kind of appreciation of the motion picture for me.
Right. And there's some really wonderful filmmakers out there today. Of course, Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese, but there's also Todd Field and Christopher Nolan and Sarah Polley, who made that wonderful film, Women Talking. So they're good filmmakers, but it just doesn't have that consistency that it had at another time.
Yeah. Let's go behind the scenes a little bit, a place where most of us don't go. I mean, what actually happens? The Academy Awards, the Oscars, are voted by the membership, obviously. And that, how significant is that?
Well, it is what it is, and they broadened the membership, and it's an institution, and the members choose, and that's, of course, the way it should be.
Right. Okay. Has the American Film Institute changed over the years?
Well, it's evolved, and we celebrated our 50th anniversary a couple of years ago, and it's really thriving. Very importantly, the conservatory, where in my era, David Lynch and Terrence Malick got their start. And today, many of the most prominent filmmakers are AFI graduates, mentioning Todd Field and Darren Aronofsky and so many others.
George, what an incredible world you grew up in as far as the influence of your father and the entire industry. That must have just pulled you in like crazy.
Well, it was just such an opportunity. I discovered I was interested in my father's work, and so I had the opportunity. My first job was working with him on Shane up in Jackson Hole. My first look at seeing how a great movie was made.
Yeah, I can imagine. You left Hollywood to go to Washington, D.C. How did that work out? How did that evolve?
It was a life-changing. Edward R. Murrow, the great broadcaster, President Kennedy asked him to run the United States Information Agency, telling America's story abroad. And Murrow and I met by accident, and soon he asked me if I would come back at age 29 and run the motion picture division of USIA, which I did. And to be part of the Kennedy's New Frontier was just such a life-changing experience. And it caused me to combine public life with movie making, and turned out to be a especially rich path for me.
Switching gears here, what always moves me to tears, and I always look forward to this, is the Kennedy Center Honors. And I think most of us love that program because it honors the incredibly special people in the performing arts, and it gives it national official recognition by having the president there, etc. You've been on top of this for how long now?
Well, I started it, and I stopped producing it 5 years ago. But it's interesting because as I said, I so admired President Kennedy, and the American Film Institute had its offices in the Kennedy Center in Washington, which was the president's memorial.
Yes.
And I one morning said to the president of the Kennedy Center, I said, you should have a show.
Yes.
And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, the words are carved in marble on the wall of this building. President Kennedy's words, of course. I look forward to an America that will not be afraid of grace and beauty, will honor achievement in the arts the way we honor achievement in business and statecraft.
Yes.
And that was basically the idea of the Kennedy Center Honors, to recognize the great figures who, in the performing arts, who have so enriched our culture.
Yeah. George, why did you leave that that honor position?
It's time to move on. The Kennedy Center wanted to refresh it, as they thought, and we were, I was considered at a very 37 years. I was happy to have done it for that length of time. And,
that is quite a run.
Yeah,
I must say. There's nothing that pulls together the country more than recognizing and appreciating talent. And it's probably the only thing left that pulls the country together, to be honest with you, make a little political statement. But this whole category and this whole industry is so important to all of us. And I guess you found that to be as well at the forefront.
I didn't know it when I was writing My Place in the Sun, but now that I read it, I realize that the Kennedy Center Honors, in the time I was doing it, we honored 198 of the greatest people, and to have all of those people in my life and their stories kind of became the core of this book. And from Lenny Bernstein to Jesse Norman to Leontine Price and Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan, just to have the pleasure of being around people who really create for the public wonderful things that last.
Yeah. Can we get a hold of your memoirs?
Yes, if you would prefer to listen to it, you can go to Audible or one of those and listen to My Place in the Sun, or of course it's sold wherever books are sold. Okay,
it's My Place in the Sun, Life in the Golden Age of Hollywood and Washington. It is fascinating because it's from somebody that was there and was intricate in that. Well, thank you for doing what you do, and for George, you got a great life. You've been a great influence on everybody in the sense of you've created and helped make those moments of special times in our lives very memorable, and it's a part of our existence. So thank you for doing that. Well, thank you to my guest, and thank you to you for being here today. Thanks. You can leave really soon now, but I'll be back again tomorrow with a brand new show. It's so new you won't believe it. Yeah, that's tomorrow. Oh, I can't wait. Can you? You can? All right, we don't share the same excitement, quite obviously, but that's just fine with me. That's what makes people different. That's why you're different than I am. You're not wearing the same pants that I am at this point, so we're different even there. And it goes on and on and on to the point where we have absolutely nothing in common, and yet we're both comfortable with that and actually prefer it that way. And that's where I sit. So, ladies and gentlemen, have yourselves a wonderful day. Until tomorrow, I wish you peace.